proper direction, if you think, I'm going to have a great day, you're going to find a way somehow mentally to make it a great day. But if you say, I'm going to have a horrible, no good, very bad day, as the one children's book says, you're going to find a way to make that happen too. How you set your perception is going to determine the reality, right? If you're going to your perception is, I'm going to have a good attitude today, and I'm going to be positive. I'm going to be focused on only the good things. I'm going to look for the silver lining of the cloud, not look for the cloud on every silver lining. I'm going to make my perspective. It's like the bitter or better. We one letter difference. We choose which way we're going to go, and that's really a true thing. We have to learn how to develop the proper attitude when we approach things, especially with the things of God. I know that some might be able to testify to this, but the attitude at the beginning of a task will often affect the outcome more than any other thing. One person said that the battle is won before the battle is begun through the attitude in their heart. If I start with a proper attitude, I will arrive at a proper destination. Even if it's not the expected destination, even if it's not the expected result that I want, as long as I enter it with the proper attitude, I'll get a proper response. One person said that it's my attitude that is the major difference between success or failure. Someone said, unlimited resources minus the right attitude still will equal defeat in every equation. They said no amount of resources can ever overcome a bad or wrong attitude. And that is a perception thing. Again, a lot of times perception is king. It's all how we look at a particular situation, whether we're going to get victory out of it or we're going to face some form of defeat. A good example of that is I forget the name of it. I've heard the illustration enough times that I should have been able to remember. It wasn't Nike, it wasn't Reebok, but it was a shoe company that once sent one of their salesmen to Africa to represent them to sell all their shoes, or to sell their shoes. And when the salesman arrived and noticed that none of the natives wore shoes, he immediately phoned back to the company, requested air tickets to fly back to the States. He told the president of the company, no one here wears shoes. How could I ever convince them of the need for shoes? The company then sent over another salesman, and when he arrived and took one look at the prospects, he called the home office requesting that they send everything that they had in stock in these sizes. And his comment was, no one over here wears shoes. What a market. Where one saw immediate defeat, the other one saw an opportunity. We can turn problems into blessings. We can turn obstacles into launching points to greater victories. And it's through our attitude that we can turn a problem into a blessing, or the opposite of that, my attitude could take my blessing and make it a problem. There's a lot of people that when they get blessed by God, they get the attitude that they don't need God anymore, and they head out the door, and then they've made their blessing into a problem. But again, the opposite of that is I can make my problem become my opportunity for blessing. When I approach a problem with the proper attitude, the problem can be a unique opportunity for a blessing. One person said it this way, and it took me a while to realize what they were saying is, they said, my problem is never my problem. I stumbled upon my words to try to find a response. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, no, my problem's never my problem. It's my attitude about it. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, and I heard them say it a number of times over the course of a few months before I finally was like, what do you mean? And it's very accurate. The problem isn't actually the problem. It's because it's our attitude on how we're going to tackle the problem. My attitude can give me an uncommon or unique perspective. Maintaining a proper attitude can help you see things in a totally different way. Bobby Kennedy once said, "Some people look at things as they are and say why. I look at things as they can be and say, why not?" And then there is a guy named Danny from a podcast called The Potty. He actually wrote a book, Poddy, not Potty. It's a dieting podcast, to be honest with. They couldn't think of a name for it, and they just summed it up as Potty because they're Australians, except for this guy, he's American, and it's stuck. It's stuck with Potty. The abbreviated name for it was actually the Trim Healthy Mama podcast, but I digress. Danny is the guy, sidekick there, and he wrote a book called If You Would, You Could, or But What If You Can? Thank you. But What If You Can? Thank you. I actually have the book in my office, and I couldn't think of it. It is a really, really good book, but he, in a quote, the first time it was mentioned, he said, "But what if you could? But what if you could?" And then that has just stuck with that, and that became his mantra to how he's overcome so much adversity in his life, some very bad situations. Life dealt him some really terrible stuff when he was younger, and this actually was something that indirectly guided him. Then he had that right. He realized, looking back, that was the attitude that he had, but he didn't have the phrasing for it yet. But then when he ran into a health issue sometime in the last 15 years, I'm not sure exactly when it was now, but he developed, he was going down a very negative path, and then he was reminded of something that he had said from that earlier episode, "But what if you could?" He used that as the launching point, where whenever the enemy tries to tell you, you can't do this, think, "But what if I can?" Right? Or if the doctor says, "You'll never be able to do this by yourself," "But what if I can?" Right? Instead of looking at the negative, constantly at the negative, he said, "But what if I can?" And he was able to succeed in a lot of things because of that that attitude change there. And then there's another example I want to bring to our attention. How many remembers Brother Alan Oggs? He passed away, sadly, not too long ago. But he is a testimony. Everything about his life, every single one of the many years of his life is another testimony. He was never supposed to be able to come to full term. Then he did. And then he was never supposed to survive the week. But he did. Well, he'll never survive to be a toddler. Then he did. He'll never make it to teen years. But then he did. He'll never walk. But then he did. He'll never be able to ride a bike. But then he did. He'll never be able to do this. But he did, and he did, and he did. All the things that he couldn't do because of health issues, he said, "No, I'm going to be able to do things." His most famous sermon that he repeated everywhere he would go, and the name of his first book is the same title, is "You Gotta Have the Want To." And the whole premise of his book and the premise of the sermon is, you've got to set the attitude. If you want it, you're going to go for it, right? It's kind of like if you go through the Hebrew and the Greek of the word faith, it's an action thing. If you really believe it, you're going to do something about it. And he said, if you believe in this, whether it be that you're going to get your health taken care of, or you're going to get this victory, you're going to get that victory, or you're going to make heaven your home, whatever it is that I believe in this, you're going to do the things whatever it takes to make sure it comes to pass. And you're going to fight and overcome any adversity. And his entire life was a testimony to that you got to have the want to. You've got to have the right attitude. And when he was here, the one time that we had him, it was something that was asked in the altar. Someone said, "What if you have the want to have the want to, but you can't figure out how to get the follow through?" And they said, it's already summed up in the title. You got to have the want to. If you got it, you'll do it. He said, you really, really, there's a lot of people that have the aspiration to have the want to because they want the after effects, but they don't want to go through it. Or as someone said here Sunday in conversation, is that a flashback of something that was said here many years ago is that everybody wants the miracle or the testimony, but they don't want to be the miracle, or they don't want to be the one in the test to bring the testimony, right? It's you want the results, but you don't want the effort that goes into it, right? But we have to remind ourselves that we have to hold on to this unique perspective we can hold on to this unique perspective if we remember that God is the source of all victory, that He is the source of all of our resources. I have finite finances, but He owns the cattle of 1,000 hills, right? That's a nice Hebraic expression, meaning He's unlimited, right? He's got it all. I might have very finite knowledge or finite wisdom, but He is the author of all wisdom, right? He is the creator of all understanding. I might have a little bit of this or a little bit of that, but He has access to it all. And if I get a hold of Him, and do not mistake this for a prosperity doctrine type of a mindset of name it and claim it, blab it and grab it. No. But I do believe that if you truly get in contact with God with the right intent and the right purposes and the right mindset and the right attitude, that God's going to bless you in the process. We can get access to the right things. But it's not about just for us and bettering us. It's for His glory. Our attitude, not our achievements or our possessions, is what will bring happiness. A lot of people, they chase the title. Oh, I want to be Dr. So-and-so. I want to be nurse such and such. I want to be a president over here. I want to be chief over there. I want to be this. I want to be that. And they chase the title. They chase the degree. They chase the car. They chase the house. They chase the stuff. They chase the people, right? They want the relationships. It's not the achievements, and it's not the possessions, it's not the titles that will ever bring happiness. It's how we think about the things that we do have, right? Someone could have a nickel in their pocket or a nickel in the bank, and they still feel more blessed and more wealthy than the guy that's sitting on millions, because it's all about how they approach the thing. Because the millionaire is constantly looking at how he's going to get the next million. Not really content with anything they have. But yet that person with a couple of nickels, they've learned to be content with what they have. And Paul even said, whatever state you be, find content there, right? That's one of the verses that we like to argue against sometimes, because we don't want to find a peace in our spot sometimes. So sometimes it is good to have that fire to burn to push you to go further, yes. But I'm not saying not to try to push yourself to go beyond. What I'm saying is just because you don't have X, Y, or Z, don't be mad that you don't have X, Y, or Z, because that can bring a negative attitude. Let's look at Luke chapter 12, verse 15. Again, that's Luke 12, 15. If anybody gets to it, go right ahead.
And he said unto them, take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth.
Right. Again, it's not about what we have out here, it's about what we have in here. Right? It's not about what's in my pocketbook, but it's what's in my heart. It's all about the heart, the attitude, how we're going to frame things. One thing we can learn is that, and we have to decide for ourselves, is my attitude will change when I want it to, right? We cannot change a lot of things, since some things are completely outside of our boxes. There's some things I can do nothing about. I can't do anything about so-and-so on the job, right? I can't do anything about whoever's in Frankfurt, or who's in the mayor's office, or who's in the White House. Outside of casting my vote, anything that they do once they're there, I can't do anything about, right? I can't. Yes, I have a voice. Yes, I should use my voice in proper manners, but I can't let my attitude, that their actions dictate my attitude in that manner. I can't control what they do, but I can control how I respond. I remember a situation many years ago where someone did me wrong, and I had the wrong attitude about it. I wanted to do something about it, and I was told in significantly more harsh tones that you're just as bad, if not worse, than what happened to you. What? Like, but I'm in the right. I did nothing, and I'm being lied on. I'm this, that, and that. But your attitude stinks. Oh, okay. All right. And anything I would have done with that attitude would have been worse, right? We cannot tailor-make all the situations in our life. We can't control the birds flying over our heads, but as the old saying goes, but I can prevent it from making a nest in my hair, right? I can choose how I respond to what's going on around me. I can't choose what is going on around me. My attitude needs continuous adjustment. Can anyone relate? Amen. We must understand that we're always under construction. As the song, Sunday school song said, he made the stars and the sun. Yes, he's still working on me. He made all that stuff 6 days, but he's still working on me. And think about how great heaven must be, right? And at the same time, if it's been a couple thousand years since he went to go prepare a place. But there is all of that, but we're still under construction. He's still working on us. There is no such thing as a consistent, perfect attitude. If someone says they've always got a great attitude, I question what's going on when we're not around, right? I wonder what's actually going on, because people still get frustrated. People still get angry. There's a guy at work. I've been there almost 3.5 years. I've seen him flustered a couple of times, but I've never seen him go off, right? Yet there's other people that I haven't seen a day that they haven't gone off, right? Yeah, exactly. He is very, very mild-mannered, very timid, very awesome. I respect his attitude and how much stuff gets thrown in his face every single day. He does the audio-video stuff. So anytime that there's a lawyer that needs to be in a conference meeting, the teleconference, he's the one that's got to go in there, press the button, and then if anything goes wrong, take care of it. To say that lawyers are needy can be needy is a very understated thing when it comes to that scenario. I did similar work before at GE for some of the VIP people, the vice presidents and such, and I could see how much prayer it would take for me to stay in that position long term after the guy that I was filling in for would come back from medical leave. That was rough. And to be able to have that attitude all day, every day, it would be tiring. I don't know what he does on his off time, but I'm sure it's something very de-stressing. But we have to realize there's no such thing as a true, perfect attitude all the time, because, again, life's going to happen. There's going to be the flat tire. There's going to be the bad health report. There's going to be a bad school report. There's going to be a sibling. There's going to be someone there to do something that's going to cause a problem to your face, right? But we have to learn that we need adjustment, right? We can't stay in whatever attitude we have. Whether it's good or bad, we're not going to stay in that spot. We need to learn that our attitude is contagious. Good or bad, it is contagious. Attitudes can be caught more than they are taught. Bad attitudes are very, 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 and I believe there's another, very contagious. But good attitudes can also be contagious. Do you know how people catch your attitude? The same way that they do by catching a cold, by getting close to you, right? The question becomes, what attitude are people catching from you? Is it positive or negative? Do people want to hang around you because they hear all the latest negative news? Or do they want to hang around you because they walk away with a smile every time? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves. Is it because they want to hear your... I feel attacked, and it's my own notes. They want to hear your latest snarky reply? Or do they want to hear the positive encouragingness of the wonderful news of Jesus Christ, right? It's what attitude are we projecting onto others? What are they taking away from us? Are they walking away grumpy because we're grumpy, or are they walking away with a smile because we put the love of Jesus to their heart? That's a good question. But we've said all that to this point. We need to know how to have good tips to tailor our attitude to the proper way, right? What's the point of talking about the importance of needing a good attitude without talking about how to get there, right? I've been in a couple lessons before where, or seminars and such, where they talk about it's important, it's important, it's important. Have a nice day. Like, why do I get there, right? Well, hopefully we'll be able to talk about that now. First, we have to understand the importance of an attitude. If you're taking notes, put this one in big, bold letters. Do not blame others, that's other people or other things, for your attitude. Bold, underline, italics. That's the way it is here. I actually got some asterisks on the side and some arrows. Do not blame, I think that was a note to myself. Do not blame others, other people or other things for your attitude. Attitude is a choice. It is not the result of things that happen to us. It feels like meddling, man. No other individual can alter your attitude for you. You choose how you respond. How many times have you ever asked someone, I'm looking up at the ceiling, I'm not looking around at all because I don't want to see hands or looks or anything, right? But anytime this question gets asked, I guarantee there's going to be something. Have you ever been asked, why did you do X, Y, or Z? Why did you say this? Why did you do this? And then the first response out of the other person's mouth is, well, they did this, or they said that, right? Yes. I have been there. I've been on both sides of that. I have been the one pointed to, and I've been the one doing the pointing. So I know. We want to blame them for what they did to us. Cool. Let's look at Job. Though he slay me, yet shall I trust him. Yep, I got dealt a bad hand, but you know what? God's still worthy. He had an odd attitude. It wasn't necessarily a good attitude. It was the right approach, but he was still kind of melancholy about it, I guess. But it was the right mindset. It was like, you know what? He still got it. He wasn't saying, well, if it wasn't for those people that came down and killed all the kids, if it wasn't for those people that came down and stole all my property, then I could have a happy life. If it wasn't for all those that came down and the tornado that destroyed this and this that did that and this did that, if it wasn't for all that, then I could be happy. No, he had that attitude of, you know what? Though he slay me, yet will I trust him. I trust in him. The outside forces did not dictate his attitude. And it shouldn't dictate ours. Now, when his friends came by to console him and mourn with him, essentially preach at him for being such a terrible, no good person, that's when his attitude got pretty off a little bit. He went from being righteously indignant to just being self-righteous a little. But that's the attitude kind of went off course there. But we can see where people try to blame others all the time, and it's usually those that there are some in life, and we're all going to encounter at least a dozen or more, that, and usually sometimes they're at the same time, that they or theirs can never do any wrong, and it's always everyone else's fault that their attitude stinks, or that this happened and that happened, or this happened and that happened, and they cannot take the correction. They cannot take the blame. They cannot take this. And their attitude just oozes ickiness. It gets tiring. But we choose whether we're going to be that kind of person or not. We can choose to say, I'm not letting the guy at work affect my attitude. He might get me frustrated. He might get me mad. He may drive me to a prayer room. But he's not going to be the reason I blow off, right? I'm not going to blow my stack and blow off steam out my mouth because of him. I don't want that to be my testimony of how I respond to things, because that's a reflection on me, not them. And I don't want the reflection of me to reflect on him, right? Because he gives me joy, he gives me peace, and he gives me all that. So I want to maintain that joy and that peace. So I need to make sure I do my part to not let them affect me, right? The car that doesn't do what it needs to do, whether it's not starting right or the light not working or this, that, and the flat tire and this, that, whatever the case might be, I'm going to make sure that stupid thing, blah, 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 blah. Discard, right? Discard that mindset. Well, at least I wasn't on the road when this happened, right? Try to look at the other side of things. Because the one way to make sure that we can tailor our attitude is develop a plan for improvement. By not trying to blame others and realizing there's something we can do about this, you can develop a plan for improvement. Once you've decided to improve your attitude, develop the plan that will help you improve your attitude. And then you commit to this improvement. And then here's the hard part. Allow the changes to take effect, right? So how do I develop a plan? Well, if watching a certain thing makes me angry, don't watch the certain thing. If playing a certain game makes me feel a certain way and have a certain attitude, then don't play that certain game. If being around certain people make me do X, Y, or Z that gives me that bad attitude, then don't be around certain people for as long as I am. I use these examples because I've had to do these things for myself. And I think I actually had a note in there to go into some of the details later on, but I'll do that now. There are certain games that I love, I absolutely adore. I don't play them anymore because I get a bad attitude. I get a stinking attitude afterwards. So I don't do it. I've made the plan. I've stuck with the plan. And thankfully it hasn't gone off the rails and I hadn't had to throw the plan away. So I'm sticking with this one. I abstain from it. I don't listen to that. I don't watch that. I don't play that, and I don't hang around that. That's my plan. You do your plan. Whatever the plan takes for you, it may be different. For some of us, it may be getting rid of certain things that we listen to, maybe getting rid of some things that we watch, maybe certain games that we play, certain activities that we are involved with. Whatever it is, you find what works for you and do it and stick with it. That'll help you a long way. Because, am I a hothead? Yeah. Am I as big of a hothead as I used to be? No. Thank God. All right? He's still working on me, but I can tell he's done some work, right? Because I've allowed his grace and his mercy to work me over and take off some of the sharp edges. Do a lot of sandpaper, I'll tell you that. But allow the effects to take place and to change. Allow the changes to take effect. Because some people say, well, I've tried it. Okay, how long did you try it? 5 seconds isn't enough. Counting to 10 may not be enough. Maybe you got to count to 1,000. I don't know. You got to do something. But here's something that help you recognize some things. Here's important indicators that an attitude adjustment is needed. All right. If you feel like you don't have enough time for God, you need an attitude adjustment. Because if you don't have enough time to pray, you're not going to be able to change your attitude at all. If you're unfaithful in church attendance, you need an attitude adjustment. If you're not consistent, there we go, with tithes, offering, or other stewardship obligations, you likely need an attitude adjustment. If you're too busy to be involved with church functions, whether it be, the picnic coming up, outreach, or even your own personal witness time, if you can't be consistent in any of those, perhaps it's time for an attitude adjustment. Another indicator that you need an attitude adjustment is when someone close to you says, you need an attitude adjustment, right? That should be obvious, right? But sometimes we get an attitude when we hear that we need an attitude adjustment. But we have to realize that our biggest critics are those that are closest to us, and oftentimes they are our greatest help if we listen. But the problem is the old saying, familiarity breeds contempt, right? We sometimes think, they're just picking, they're just being bossy, they don't know what they're really talking about, this, that, and the other. And if we hear ourselves saying those things, maybe they're right. Maybe I do need an attitude adjustment. Where'd it go? Oh, yeah. We have to learn to listen to the voices of those that are close to us. We need to learn to listen to the voice of our pastor, our family, and our friends when they say, hey, you know what, I think you're going down the wrong path with this. I think you might need to check yourself. Or, as commonly heard throughout my generation, check yourself before you wreck yourself, right? If you don't, or check up from the neck up, right? Check that attitude. Check what is going on. Make sure you are doing better. You can do better because you are better than you are acting at that moment. So learn to listen to those voices. Here's a very big key indicator that we need to have an attitude adjustment. When our view of others is quite low. When our conversation about church leadership is critical, we need an attitude adjustment. If our conversation about the recent visitor is critical, we need an attitude adjustment. If it's, did you see what they wore? Did you see this? Did you hear that? Did this? Did that? We probably need an attitude adjustment if it's constantly tearing someone down. If we choose to be critical, we could also choose to be complimentary. Instead of saying, that is a terrible look, you could say, hey, you know what? What you wore last week, that was awesome. Both might be saying the same thing. That ain't a great look on you. But one's the positive way of saying anything. You could be, or you could find what's great about that person. Hey, you got a great smile. Instead of focusing on the terrible outfit that they're wearing or whatever it is that you're trying to tear them down about. Instead of being critical, look for a way to be complimentary. Try to find the positive in someone instead of trying to blast holes in them, right? Because when we're trying to blast holes, we obviously need an attitude adjustment, right? Instead of blasting holes, look for compliments. And then the last one that I'm going to focus on there is when your view of life becomes critical, that's a huge indicator that you need an attitude adjustment. If all you see in life is the bad things, bad this, bad that, you might need an attitude adjustment. Life does have some bad things, but we don't have to focus only on the bad things because there are some good things in this life, right? Life can hand us some pickles, right? And I don't mean the yummy snacks, all right? I mean, it can hand us some terrible stuff. I get that. Some very terrible, I want to say it politely, especially considering where I'm sitting. We can have some terrible stuff happen. Some junk can affect us, right? But we don't have to let the junk and the stuff dictate how we respond to life. We can either sit there and, like the other thing, we can get bitter, or we can put some effort behind it and become better. On your vehicle, whether you drive a van, SUV, or a car, a pickup, or even a motorcycle, they all have a little bit of a dashboard. And there are gauges that indicate when negative things are wrong with the vehicle. We can't focus our attention on the gauges all the time and drive effectively. However, we look at them when they light up, right? At least we should. Unless it's an old white van that used to sit out there that had electrical tape covering the light that was always on because, just ignore that. It's fine. But when we look at those constantly, we ignore the road that's ahead, right? We should likewise do something similar with the negative things that happen in life. We can look at it, but then stop looking and just focus back on the road ahead because we're going to great places, right? If we do the right thing, if we, fulfill our part, of God's plan, we're going great places. There might be some current setbacks. There might be some this. There might be some tragedy. There may be some potholes, some ditches, and this, that, and the other. But we don't have to focus on those. We can focus on the road that is ahead. Don't just constantly look for the problems on the dash, because you know what's going to happen? You're going to end up in a wreck, right? And again, that's the whole check yourself before you wreck yourself type thing. I remember one time, 6 years ago. This is not the only time that she has said this to me, but it was one of the most, it stuck with me, we'll say it that. I was going on about something that was going on, and my wife, in the sweetest voice that she could muster, just said, was going on about something. She was, all quiet and polite and this, that, and the other, just listening to me just ramble like a buffoon. And she said, you know what I think? What's that, dear? You need to get over it. I was I was waiting for the backup, right? I was waiting for her to jump in on my side, and she just, no. It was this nice, quiet slice of the knife right into my rib right there. Like, you need to get over it. Fine. She was a good indicator that day, right? She was right. She often is. I needed to get over it. Because at this point, I only remember that this happened, right? I don't even remember what it was. I just remember that I was mad about something that was probably meaningless. And I wanted to gripe. And she took the steam out of my gripe session. And she put me into a prayer session. So it's a good indicator there because I was being very negative about some things. That much I remember. I was being negative about life events, this, that, and the other. Someone did this one wrong, and that's affecting this, and this was going on. A lot of stuff was all just, you ever been in that spot where boom, 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 everything, You don't even get a time to recover from the haymaker. They're the next punch lands, just boom, 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 boom. It was one of those times of life, and I was just wanting to grump about every little thing, and she said, "You just need to get over it." And the sweetest, nicest voice I've ever heard her say anything, and it hit hard. It hit home. So we need to learn to listen to those types of voices in our life and say, you know what, I need to get my adjustments done. So here's the tips for adjusting too. Say the right words. What we say is important. Matthew 15:18 says that what comes out of a man defiles him, not what goes in. So don't let what comes out be the thing that's negative, that defines you in a negative manner. Let it be something good. Proverbs 18:21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof." What you say is important. If you're negative Nancy out your mouth all the time, you're going to have some problems. So say some good things. Say some positive things. Learn to find, if there's someone that you're frustrated with, here's a tip. Not in the notes at all. Well, tangentially. If there's someone that you're frustrated with, find one way to compliment them every day for 49 days. You know why 49 days? Because that's what sets the habit. And if you can find something different every day, something positive that you can say about them every day for 49 days, guess what? You probably see them in a new light. You're going to find something different to do. Otherwise, you're going to find something negative to say about them every single day, and you know what? You're just going to be negative and negative and negative. If you want that change, look for something positive in them. Psalm 19:14 again says that Chris read earlier, "Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer." I want the words to be pleasing. I want my attitudes to be pleasing. I want what I think about in my heart to be pleasing unto him and acceptable unto him. Because if we're constantly thinking about knocking somebody's block off, even if we don't do it, guess what? It's not the pleasing attitude unto him, right? So we got to make sure we adjust that in the way. Don't just keep our mouth quiet, but learn to get the heart. It's not just what comes out, it's what's down in here that needs to get adjusted too. We got to consume the right media. Again, I got rid of certain things because were they sinful? I don't think so. But how I responded to them, not great. So I got rid of them. So be careful what media you consume, because it all has great effect on our attitude. Have you noticed, if you're listening to some praise and worship, you tend to have a little bit more of an upbeat attitude, right? If you listen to something, we'll do negative talk commentary, right? Political commentary. I love politics. I try not to listen to some of it right now because I don't want to get angry. Because I have a strong sense of justice, right? I have a strong sense of what I believe, and I'm very strong about that. And I don't want to be the one trying to get, well, you're wrong. Or blah, blah, blah. No, I learn for myself, get rid of it. We got to learn what we should have, learn how things affect us, and then adjust the things that we're consuming. That way we're affected properly. Because life's not always as it is portrayed in the stories and the songs and the TVs or in the movie or in the video games. Life is life. Life's not scripted in that way. Although I do know the author and finisher of my faith, right? And if I trust in him rather than what everything else is going on around me, my attitude can be a little bit better. So consuming things that inspire and motivate us to growth are very important in developing the proper attitude. And we should take a strong stand against certain things because of the influence it has on us. Again, I'm not going to make a laundry list because it's not my job to make a laundry list. You know what affects you. So if it affects you negatively, get rid of it. Or as one elder said, get rid of it, right? Get it out. Dismiss it. Russ Smith used to say, discard, right? Just whatever you got to do, get rid of it, man. That will help your attitude go a long way. And then finally, fellowship the right people. There's an old saying, birds of a feather flock together. Does anyone know the rest of the verse or the saying? I'm forgetting it. I didn't write the whole thing down because, I'm not always cognitive of things. It's birds of a feather flock together, but then there's something about differences too, and the process there. What we have to realize, there's good and bad about the traditional intended comment when people say the birds of a feather flock together. The rest of it actually kind of makes it a contrary statement. But the birds of the feather flock together, when people usually say that, what they're trying to say is, if that guy's a terrible person, and that guy's a terrible person, and you're hanging around them, you're probably a terrible person too, right? Or if, that person's really nice, and that person's really nice, this person's hanging out with them, they're pretty nice, right? There's the good and the bad with that. So find people that are good, that are righteous, that are holy, that are trying to live a holy and separated life, and hang around them. If we constantly put ourselves into the fellowship of the unrighteous, their unrighteousness can rub off on us. While it is very much within the power of the Holy Ghost for our attitude and our actions to rub off on them, if we are constantly around only the unrighteous, it can affect us, more likely to affect us negatively than affect them positively. Those weren't my words. It was someone else's, and I liked them, so I copied them down. We need to make sure we fellowship with the right folk. I remember in high school, I didn't always do that. Bad on me. I made mistakes because of that. I remember in college, I didn't always do that. So I made mistakes. Bad on me. After college, I didn't always do that. I'm slow to learn, right? All right. It takes me a little while. But I've learned since. I try to do better. I try to hang around people that are positive, that are encouraging. And if they're not positive, encouraging, you know what I try to do? I try to make a joke so I can turn it around. All right? I do something to try to adjust the situation. That's a wonderful lesson I learned from Brother D, to try to steer that away from the negative, or the down, because it helps bless the situation. Think of it this way in closing here. Joseph, he had his trials, didn't he? That boy, his brothers hated him because he had a dream. They conspired to kill him, but thank goodness, one of the brothers like, nah, we can't do that. So instead, they threw him in a pit. They were going to leave him to die, and they're like, you know what? Let's not do that either. Let's just sell him into slavery. So he got sold into slavery by his own brothers. Then he got lied on by a very promiscuous woman who, before there was a law, he was being righteous according to the law, right? Before there was a thou shalt not commit adultery, he was making sure he wasn't committing adultery. Then he got lied on there and got thrown into prison. Then when he was in prison, he helped somebody else out, and they said, I'll remember you. And then it wasn't for 2 more years before they remembered him to help get him out. Bam, 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 over the course of, I don't know, I think somebody said it was like 19 years from beginning to end of that portion. I'm not sure of the exact numbers, but it's a long time. But he kept his attitude right, and it took him from the persecution of his brethren to the pit, to Potiphar's house, to the prison, to the palace. His attitude was right, and it got him where he needed to be. Likewise, if we have a promise, or we have a promise of things to come, and if we focus on that, it'll help us maintain our attitude and get right and stay right. Are we always going to be having that great, amazing attitude? Nope. We're going to have some stinking thinking every now and then. But the good thing is we don't have to stay in that stinking thinking attitude and mindset. We can change and be prosperous. Any questions today? Any comments? All right. Well, let's ask God to bless in this place today and to help us walk away with some tips here that will bless us. Father, we come before you again now, Most High God. Lord, we ask you to touch our lives, touch the situations and circumstances, and most of all, help touch our attitudes, oh God. Lord, help us, oh God. Lord, change to be more like you, oh God. Lord, help us, oh God, overcome the things of the past. Lord, to not dwell on the past, but Lord, to dwell on that future of the promise with you, oh God. Lord, help us focus on better things, oh God, Lord, not on the things of yesteryear or yesterday or even a couple of hours ago or a couple